bosses are organized, the money is organized. Why shouldn't the workers be? I take on Julio Rivera on the importance of unions. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Amazon warehouse workers down in Alabama, he said, and I quote, "Today and over the next few days and weeks, workers in Alabama and all across America are voting on whether to organize a union in their workplace. There should be no intimidation, no coercion, no threats, no anti-union propaganda." The fact is that anti-union propaganda is literally a multi-billion-dollar industry. Amazon is paying people over $3,000 a day to promote anti-union propaganda to and among these workers down there, I mean, which is pretty mind-boggling. So, you know, what do conservatives have against workers organizing? Management organizes. Corporations are organized money. Why can't, if corporations are organized money, why can't we have organized workers who can balance that out? On the line with us is Julio Rivera, the editorial director at Reactionary Times, contributor to Newsmax, American Thinker, and townhall.com, reactionarytimes.com, his website, or his Twitter handle, rather. Oh, yeah, it's Julio. Julio, welcome back. So what's wrong with unions? Why should American workers not be allowed to join together and have representation in their workplace?
Okay, well, first of all, Tom, we don't live in, the 1800s or the early 1900s where unions really were useful because, working conditions were dangerous back at that time. But let me just give you some recent historical information. The United Commercial Commercial Food and Workers Union has actually done more damage to the workers. Basically, a lot of workers have lost their jobs during the pandemic. What wound up happening is that they've been pushing for a higher pay from certain, groceries chains and whatnot. And what wound up happening is they pressured in Long Beach, California. They pressured the local government there to create an ordinance looking to pay grocery workers $4 extra an hour, which wound up leading to two grocery stores, two Kroger locations closing. So what winds up happening is they put a lot of
$4 an hour broke a multi-billion-dollar corporation? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Julio? And by the way, if you say you're saying that back in the 1800s, when people were getting killed on the job, that unions were providing a useful function. Have you paid attention at all to what's going on in meat packing plants in America right now? There's some of the deadliest. Certainly, it's a deadlier job than being a police officer.
No, it's not, and I don't hear about people dying constantly, cutting meat. But anyway, well, let me make another.
But even if people aren't dying, don't they have the right to have some say over how they're treated in the workplace?
I haven't heard anything about that, and I'm not going to let you throw me a curveball here. I'm going to stick to my point. The point I want to make, though, Tom, and this is a very serious one, is that these corporations are only going to put out as much money on payroll as they deem necessary for their profit margins. And that's what it boils down to. You can't sit there and force a company, a private business, to do business in the way that you'd like them to do it.
Yes, you can.
Ultimately, that's going to lead to less jobs. They're going to.
No, we do that all the time, Julio. We do that with minimum wage laws. We do that with safety laws. And by the way, if they can't get people to work for them, I mean, these corporations, they don't have anything without workers. Workers are who produce the goods and services that these fat cats are getting rich off of. Kroger's among them, a multi-billion-dollar, insanely profitable corporation. And if $4 an hour is breaking them, they need to go out of business and let somebody come in like Costco who knows how to run a business.
Yo, let me tell you something about Costco. I'm glad you bring that up because in that ordinance that the city of Long Beach actually put forth, Walmart and Costco were actually exempt from having to provide that extra $4 an hour. So these cities are actually, when they're putting together these laws, much like legislation in Washington, D.C.
This is not unionization that you're trying to debate here with me, Julio. We're not talking about a law in Long Beach. We're talking about the right of people to have a union. Republicans hate it. Democrats like it.
They're a political machine. All they wind up doing is collecting a whole bunch of dues from these workers. They don't really provide much of a service to a lot of these these workers other than getting them fired because
I think union members would strongly disagree with you.
Those salaries, they will downsize in staff. So there's people out there. Listen, these unions, and I'll use the UCFW example again. During the pandemic, when people were losing their jobs, they didn't do anything to cut back on the collection dues. That would have immediately probably saved jobs. The companies could have temporarily dropped salaries, to offset the not collecting dues for a short period. All they do is they contribute money to politicians to do this. So the politicians.
So give me, Julio, I still haven't heard an answer to my question. Why should people not have the right to unionize if they choose to?
Well, listen, I'm not saying they don't have the right to unionize, but they have to live with the consequences of it. If they sit there and they fight these corporations,
they're perfectly willing to do that. Why is it that Republicans are constantly opposing the right of workers to unionize? You've got I believe it's 34 states now, it might be 22, that have these so-called right.
You're taking $3 off of your $15 an hour pay. You're effectively making $12 an hour. Now these unions.
But without that union, you would have been making $9 an hour.
What was that?
Without that union, you would have been making $9 an hour.
No, that's not necessarily.
That seems like a bargain to me.
Companies don't want to hire lazy people. They want to hire good workers that earn the money that they actually pay. It doesn't behoove the company to hire a.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me, Julio, that unionized workers are lazy? That somehow having representation in the workplace, when CEOs get together and form a corporation, does that make them lazy too?
Listen, that's not what the example is. We're talking about, end workers, like people who are going to work in, let's say, the Amazon factory. In the Amazon factory, Jeff Bezos, and all these fat cats, as you like to call them, are only willing to expend but so much money for that workforce. But what's going to wind up happening is if they unionize and they force, you got to pay us at this rate or we're going to strike and you're not going to have anybody to work that factory, they're going to wind up leading to massive layoffs. They're going to say, okay, we're only.
No, they're going to wind up getting benefits. That's how it has worked for over 100 years.
Well, listen,
how do you think Julio? It was unions who brought us the 2-day weekend. It was unions who brought us the 8-hour day. It was the unions who brought us the 40-hour week. It was unions who brought us workplace safety rules. It was unions who brought us the minimum wage.
And what have you done
unions have done.
Get people fired. They sit there and they fight for an extra $1, an extra $2, an extra $3. To those corporations, they're going to be like, okay, well, we don't have extra money, so we will pay the individual worker that.
No, this is not about money. This is about power.
Fire people. Fire people. Would you rather have more people employed or less people employed, Tom? And let me tell you something. That 20% or 15% or whatever it is that the union takes off of the top from that salary, I mean, do they really earn that money? Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Unions
are democracies, Julio.
Their importance. That's my question.
Unions are democracies. They are absolute democracies. Unions elect their own leadership. Unions, the rank and file of the unions determine their policies. So you're anti-democracy now too.
Tom, you talk like a guy who's never started a small business, and I know that's a lie because I know you have, and I know you have a smart business mind. You can't possibly believe that unions are still as relevant and as necessary as they were 100 years ago. That is just.
I do. In fact, I think they're more important now than ever before, particularly with the ability of companies like Amazon to hyper-surveil people. But anyhow, Julio, thanks for dropping by. It's always good.
That's another argument, which I do agree with. They shouldn't have that right.
Okay, well, the union would be fighting that.